So while I'm working on some other projects, I just figured, you know what? I'm going to be a good sport. I'm going to make a whole video dedicated to just laughing at how bad my predictions were literally 2 months before Carney became prime minister. I mean, I made this video back then, and I even changed the title to This Aged Terribly because, okay, look, you'll see. So the context was Justin Trudeau had just announced his resignation, and his successor was supposed to bring the Liberal Party of Canada, which, at the time was polling at 20%, back from the dead. And I said shit like this. So this got me thinking, how often does quitting less than a year before an election actually work out well for the party and their successor? Is Justin's successor a lamb being led to the slaughter? Yes. Okay, like in my defense right there, I proceeded to list off two cases, that being Mulroney quitting and being replaced by Kim Campbell, and the OG Trudeau quitting and being replaced by John Turner, both of which ended in disaster for their party. I then also pointed out that, maybe you could argue that Pierre Elliott Trudeau when he came in and replaced Pearson was a success, but, Pearson was never as unpopular as Justin Trudeau was at the time. I mean, yeah, okay, he couldn't speak French, but then again, neither could Jean Chrétien, and that guy was in office for a decade, so... And speaking of Chrétien, oh my god, I mentioned how when Chrétien left and was replaced by Paul Martin, how, that was kind of like replacing a somewhat unpopular leader, except he was more so unpopular within his party. Like, the party itself was still very popular in the fall of 2003. I pointed out that the sponsorship scandal really knocked him down a peg, but, he got to steer a ship for about 2 years. Justin's successor will have to steer a ship that's 3/4 underwater. So, whoever takes over has an impossible task ahead. Come on, we all knew Trump was going to give the Liberals a bit of a boost because Pierre had adopted a lot of Trump's mannerisms, and well, now that Trump was the boogeyman, it kind of painted him as the boogeyman by comparison. But come on, man, who was predicting this massive reversal? I stand by my criticism back then. How the hell was I supposed to know that Mark Carney was going to rally all of the left-wing progressives behind him? Like, when was the last time your social justice warrior friend was like, you know what? I want to back a central banker. Like, a conservative being a banker? Sure, okay, fine, I get that. But, the climate change people, the social justice, everything, like, how are those guys going to rally behind a banker? That shit is wild. I then went on to speculate about who would succeed Trudeau as Liberal Party leader. And I started off on the right foot, but then it kind of went downhill. So here, take a listen. It could be Chrystia Freeland, even though I think she made one too many enemies in the party, and thus I don't think they're going to want her to lead it. Okay, I was right about that. Chrystia Freeland did not take over because the party kind of hated her, and the party pretty much closed ranks behind Mark Carney. Or it could be the savior that the news does not shut up about, Mark Carney. He's been twerking for the role for a while now, but nobody outside Ottawa and Bay Street knows who the heck he is. Which is true, nobody had really heard of him, but having the entire Liberal Party of Canada push you out into the public was really a plus, it seems. In fact, the only thing that most people had heard at this time was that either A, he was the guy who saved us from the 2008 financial crisis, even though his contribution is definitely overblown, and I might do a video afterwards discussing exactly what he did. I'm not saying he didn't do anything, I'm just saying that people have overinflated that for political gains. And then the other half of the people were complaining about how horrible he was over at the UK.
I think it is extraordinary that Mark Carney has become the Prime Minister of Canada. He did a terrible job in Britain of the governorship of the Bank of England. He created a lot of the problems that blew up on my watch and that I got blamed for were actually created by him.
Spoiler alert, she doesn't exactly specify what Carney did that blew up during her tenure, causing her to win the any percent record for speedrunning the UK Prime Ministership. What actually happened was that she tabled a mini-budget that would have seen tens of billions of pounds of tax cuts for the rich and corporations that weren't funded at all, and would have caused the deficit to explode, which caused investors to lose confidence in the post-Brexit UK economy and started dumping UK government debt. the ensuring instability would cause her to quit her job in less time than anybody in the UK or Canada for that matter. Okay, fine, I lied a little bit. She did try and partially fund the tax cuts by cutting welfare. That would have pushed almost 500,000 people into poverty, but it wasn't enough to offset the tax cuts. So all that to say, if Carney's tenure in England was so terrible, his detractors failed to articulate his shortcomings beyond crying about the WEF and the globalists and so on and so forth. And okay, I'm just going to shamelessly plagiarize this guy's video for a sec to show you how I felt.
Mark Carney's a globalist, okay? He's a globalist. Don't you get it? He's a globalist. Yeah, we know. He ran a bank in another country and worked at Goldman and Brookfield. No one is under the illusion that he is some man of the common people. But maybe in a world where a bunch of dudes start putting tariffs on penguins and bring down 10% of the Toronto Stock Exchange, where so many common people hold their pensions and retirement savings, having a guy who understands how global economics and markets work is probably a good thing.
Like, yes, we know he ran a bank. Please give us something else on top of that. Like, I still maintain the fact that he was Trudeau's economic advisor when our economy kind of went to shit. I think that was probably the biggest hammering point that the Conservatives had. But anyways, whatever. We'll go back to watching my horrible takes. If I can make a recommendation, dear Liberal viewers, go with Christy Clark, the former Premier of British Columbia. Hear me out. Not only does this break the stereotype that all Liberal premiers need to be from the East, but the Liberals need somebody who can reverse a 20-point deficit in the opinion polls. And well, she literally pulled that exact same feat in 2013. Can she do it again? Did British Columbians even like her while she was in office? I mean, it's a suicide mission either way. Oh man, I totally forgot that I told people Christy Clark was the right choice. But in my defense, again, she did have experience turning around a 20-point deficit in the polls. And I don't care if people in BC hated her or whatever happened over there. The vast majority of voters are not in BC, so she's kind of like a new face. Plus, given the fact that she was okay with the Trans Mountain expansion, I doubt Alberta will be that angry with her. You see this screenshot right here? This one is from 338. This was January 5th. Look at that. Liberals projected third place, 35 seats, behind the Bloc Québécois. Oh my god. I actually can't even, guys. Pierre Poilievre, if you're listening, just go take a break, go skiing or something, like you have this in the bag. Okay, fine, turns out Pierre did not actually have this in the bag. He didn't even end up having his seat in the bag. And Jagmeet, I guess you can take over as the left-wing progressive voice, but you did prop him up for the last 3 years, so good luck. Aha! See? In a sea of L's, I got one right. One miserable thing right. Jagmeet was not able to resuscitate his political career. Boom! Failing grade, but I don't care. Reputation somewhat restored, I hope. Anyways, I thought we were just going to make a little bit of fun of myself at my own expense as we wait for the next video to come out, which should hopefully be soon. So stick around. I may also do a live stream, but who knows? We'll see.